Hello, and welcome to Quads by Cory G. On the screen you will find what the game consists of. Quads by Cory G consist of 8 golden tokens, 48 tiles, made up of 8 sets numbered 1 through 6. Know that the color of the tiles have no impact on the game's concept. You will also have 2 dice, 38 total cubes made up of 8 yellow cubes, 8 green cubes, 8 red cubes, and 8 blue cubes. These colored cubes do have relevancy to the game's concept. And last but not least, the Quads by Cory G official game board. Now here's a look at the Quads by Cory G game board. The squares on the board each represent 20 out of the 21 possible outcomes when rolling 2 6-sided dice. The exclusion being the combination of 1, 1, which there is a reason for. That reason will be explained later down the line. Now I know some of you literal thinkers are probably thinking, wait, isn't there actually 36 physical outcomes when rolling 2 6-sided dice? You're not wrong, but for the purpose of the Quads by Cory G board game, we decided to go with the 21 possible combinations if order weren't to matter. We did not include duplicated or reverse dice combinations to change any given combination to another. We only included the 15 unique combinations plus the 5 possible combinations consisting of identical numbers, considering we excluded the 6 possible identical combo of 1, 1. Now if you still don't understand, go ahead and pause it here for further explanation. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Now that you were given a visual of the game board, let's talk about tiles. There are 48 tiles made up of 8 sets of tiles numbered 1 through 6. There are 12 blue, 12 green, 12 yellow, and 12 red tiles. Understand that the color of these tiles have absolutely no impact on the game's rules or concept. The colors don't mean anything. During the game, these tiles are placed in a bag and are pulled 6 at a time per each player's set or turn. As mentioned, each player will pull out 6 tiles from the game bag per turn. Each player will then break down their 6 tiles and form them into a trick. A trick is a combination of 2 numbered tiles which represents where on the board said player will place their cube on their next move. As you go on to understand the game, you will learn that there is a strategic method to the formation of each trick put together and played by each player. Remember how each turn a player pulls out 6 tiles from the game bag and breaks them down into tricks? Well, as each trick is played, it is put off to a side and organized into what is called a set. A set consists of 3 tricks. After each set has been played, players will draw a new set of tiles from the game bag a total of 4 times. A round. Each round is concluded once either player has gone through and played a completed 4 sets made up of 12 total tricks. Now, the player who reaches the completion of their 4 sets first will announce last trick as they play the last trick of their 4th set. The calling of last trick is meant to notify the opposing player that they will only get to play 1 final trick, regardless of how many tricks they might have left to play. Now let me emphasize the meaning of last trick. Last trick means the opponent has 1 move and then all tiles are gathered by each player and put into the game bag for the start of the next round. Once last trick is called, even if the opponent's last trick is a double, there is no free turn. Once opponent plays their last trick, all tiles are placed back into the bag to reset for the next round. Player who called last trick will pull their set first and make the first move in the next round. Tricks with rules. 1-1, also known as wild. Playing a trick consisting of double ones gives a player several options, such as placing the next cube on deck anywhere on the board that is available, or moving any cube or cubes belonging to the player who plays a 1-1 trick 1 space to an adjacent square in any direction that is available. The 1-1 trick also would allow a player to merge any like color cubes that belong to that player. The 1-1 trick also would allow a player to explode or break up a frozen or a triple. Lastly, the 1-1 trick allows player to take any of their cubes from the gutter and place it back into play, but in this case, the gutter cube is only allowed to be placed in a square within the row associated with that gutter. Those are the possibility that a 1-1 allows. Did you notice I kept mentioning the words if available? What I mean by available is the square is not taken up by an opponent's frozen, triple, or quad. Also, remember, in no case whatsoever could players combine two cubes of unlike colors. For example, if I'm a player playing the green and yellow cube, I could not combine or merge a green cube with a yellow cube. Therefore, if the next on deck does not match color cube that is on a square on the board, then that square is also considered unavailable. Doubles. Doubles are also considered a trick with a rule. A double is a trick made up of two identical numbers, such as 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, 5-5, 6-6. You'll find 5 doubles on the game board. The 1-1 is a wild. There's a specific rule for that double. Playing a double gives a player another free turn. If 3 doubles are played in a row, the player is done with their turn. For example, if I play a 2-2 followed by a 4-4 followed by a 6-6, although I've ended with a double, I've played my 3 in a row, and now I'm done with my turn. Golden token. A golden token is utilized when a player has no more cubes on deck or in the gutter of a row in which a trick is played. Example, let's imagine I am at a point where I have no more cubes on deck because they are all on the game board. Now, although I don't have any cubes, I still have to pull sets and keep playing tricks. If it so happens that I pull a trick, let's say 2-3, and it's empty, I can't place a cube there because I don't have any more cubes on deck. And if I didn't have a cube in the gutter of that row, I would have to place a golden token on the 2-3. Now, if a double is played and a token is used by the player who played the double, there's no free turn. The double rule does not apply when a golden token has to be placed. When a trick is played and the square that the trick represents has a golden token on it, the player may move any of their own cube or cubes such as Munchie, frozen, triple, quad, next on deck cube, or one cube from any gutter to replace a golden token. Once golden token is played, it is to be returned to the pile off of the game board. When a golden token is on a square, the 1-1 wild rule does not apply. To utilize the golden token rule, a player must play that exact trick associated with the square containing the golden token. Cubes. It is important to understand that cubes can only merge with light colors. No square on the board game can have mixed colors. For example, at no point may a green cube be added or combined with a yellow cube, and vice versa. Munchie. A munchie is a single cube. A munchie is always at risk of being eaten, which means it's vulnerable of being taken out by the opponent and sent to the gutter. If a trick is played where the opponent's munchie is located, the player sends the opponent's munchie to that row's gutter and can replace it with an on-deck cube of their own or replace it with a cube of their own that is in that row's gutter. Gutter. Gutters are located on both ends of the board, where a munchie is sent by the opponent. If a trick is played where an opponent's munchie is located, the player will send the opponent's munchie to that row's gutter. To get out of the gutter, a munchie in the gutter can be played if a trick from its row is played or with a golden token. It's important to understand that a quad must first be established on the game board before a munchie can be sent to the gutter. If a trick is played where an opponent's munchie is located, but there is not a quad established on the game board yet, it would be considered a dead play. The cube would remain on the square, and that player would lose their turn. Frozen. A frozen is two or more cubes within one square. Frozen cubes can't be sent to the gutter. They are considered safe. If a trick is played where a frozen is located, the player that holds that color may do one of the following. 1. The player could move the frozen altogether to an adjacent square in any direction that is available. 2. The player can split their frozen into munchies to an adjacent square in any direction that is available. 3. The player can merge with the cube or cubes of the same color if it's adjacent to the square where the frozen is located. Triple. A triple is when there's 3 cubes within one square. A triple is 1 cube away from becoming a quad. A controlled explosion with a triple is if a player or opponent plays a trick where a triple is located, the player that holds that color may explode to one adjacent square in any available direction. A triple is also considered a frozen. The objective of the game is to complete 4 quads before your opponent to win the game. The player who completes their 4 quads first wins the game. A quad is a single set of 4 cubes of the same color inside a square on the board. How to make a quad. To create a quad, the player must strategically play tricks that would eventually put the player in position to connect 4 munchies in 4 separate squares adjacent to each other in any form, whether it be diagonal, zigzag, T, L, or Y, as long as the squares are adjacent from one another and connecting. How to make a quad by merging a triple with a munchie. That's done in 3 possible ways, which is if the player who holds the green plays a 3-6, they can move one way in any direction that's available, right? They can go up, here, 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 and here, right? Which is probably the best thing to do because doing that, merging these right here, makes a quad, right? Another way would be pulling the 5-5. So the 5-5 is pulled, then by the player who holds the green, obviously, then that player could merge this that way, right? That's an option they would have with the 5-5. Last one would be a 1-1. A 1-1 would allow the player that holds the green to either move this one this way or this one this way if they wanted to, right? Either way, the option's theirs at that point. Whenever a 3-6 is pulled, it must be the 3-6 that slides over. When a 5-5 is pulled, it must be the 5-5 that slides over. Now, if the opponent plays a 3-6, it's frozen. It belongs to me, for example, right? If my opponent were to play the 3-6, that would cause me to have to move, which would allow me to slide over this way too. So if my opponent were to play the 3-6, then I could also create that quad. Now the munchie, it would just depend whether or not they have cubes available. They'd probably end up taking me out here if they played a 5-5. But if they played the 3-6, that would cause me to have to move this way. All right, how to make a quad. Merging 2 frozens. In this case, they're double frozens, right? 2 cubes. If my opponent were to play a 3-4, if my opponent were to play the 2-3, that would mean that I would have to move, and I could move in any direction that I would like, right? That's available. a one-way any square. So obviously if they ended up picking a 3-4, which I'm sure they would try to avoid, but if they had no other option but to play the 3-4 and they played it, I could just merge that right there and make my quad, right? And vice versa. If they ended up playing the 2-3, same thing. I got the option to move. Might as well just move right next door, merge that together, make a quad, right? Now the same thing goes for me, right? So if I was in this position here and I saw that I had a 2-3, I could play my 2-3 and then slide that over here, get it merged, right? Another option would be the 3-4. Same thing goes. If I played the 3-4, I could slide anywhere I want. I'd probably slide there, right? Make that quad. Another way would be pulling a wild, a 1-1, allowing me to move anything that belongs to me one way in any direction. So why not just go ahead and merge that right there and make a quad. All right, so here we go. Here's another way to make a quad, right? It's one out of the many ways that a quad can be made. And this one will be by 4 munchies in 4 separate squares adjacent to each other in any form, right? Now, you might look at this right now and say, how can I make this a quad, right? You got a frozen, a munchie here, you got a space here, there's a gap right here, and then you got a munchie out there in the corner. How do you make this a quad? So to make this a quad, you would need to pull a 1-1 wild, which would allow me to go here if I wanted to. That wouldn't give me a quad though. It would allow me to slide this up if I wanted to. That wouldn't give me a quad. It would allow me to move this one over here closer this way. That wouldn't give me a quad. But you got to remember that it would also allow me to explode any frozens that I have on the board. And if I pull the 1-1, I could explode here. There's my connection. That's a quad. I could also explode here, and there's my connection, right? So there's various ways to get the quad. Now let's move this back here. What's another way, right? Another way would be pulling a 3-4 itself. So the 3-4 is mine. I get to move it one way in any direction or split it, explode. Same thing goes, right? I would probably end up exploding here to make that quad, or here, right? Just depends really how the game's going. If my opponent has a munchie right there or a munchie right there, obviously I'm gonna try to take them out, put them in the gutter. If they're right here, I'm gonna do the same thing, take them out, put them in the gutter. It could be that they have a frozen sitting in one of these, right? So then obviously you would be able to choose the option that the frozen isn't on. So if they had their frozen here, I could just go around it, right? So let's say, for example, they had their frozen sitting there. I played a 3-4. What are my options? Right there to split if I want to get that quad, right? And same thing this way. If I want to, make that quad, I pull the 3-4, split it upward. There's that connection right there. Another way a quad could be made is by putting your gutter and then adding it to a triple, right? A frozen that consists of 3 cubes. So how would that have to happen? That could happen in 2 ways. That would be by pulling a 1-2. If I pull the 1-2, I could grab my munchie here and add that all the way over here and make that quad, right? Another way would be, let's say I happen to pull out a wild, right? Like a wild being a 1-1, that allows me to move anything that belongs to me one way in any direction. I could get my next on deck, add it anywhere I'd like to. But let's say, for example, my next on deck was a yellow. So I can't add my yellow to that 1-2. But what I could do also is grab my gutter and put it anywhere in that row that's available. Technically, this is available. That's the best option, obviously. The 1-6 would be available in this case, 1-5. The 1-4 is not available, right? That's the opponent's. They got it frozen. I can't place my gutter there and put them in the gutter because it's frozen, it's safe. Can't mess with that. I could go to the 1-3, But what's the best option is sliding it over to the 1-2 to make that quad. Let's talk about a controlled explosion with a triple, right? So in this case, we're going to focus on the 3-6, right? There's a triple on there, right? The triple belongs to the player that's holding the green and yellows, right? The opponent is going to be red and blue, right? With that being said, the controlled explosion with a triple rule is if a player or opponent plays a trick where a triple is located, the player that holds that color may explode in one adjacent square in any direction that is available. Now, I emphasized the 1 because pulling a 3-6, right? Whether it's me or if my opponent pulls a 3-6, if a 3-6 is pulled and there's a player in this position, right? In this case, I'm that player, right? I'm the owner of the green and yellow. So if a 3-6 gets pulled, whether it's me or the opponent that pulls it, right? I could slide this all together this way. I could slide it this way. I could slide it this way. Take this one out, put it in the gutter, right? Take my opponent out, which is a good choice there. Taking the opponent out is always a good choice. I could slide it. I don't know if I went this way, but I could slide it there. I can't slide it there. That's off limits. My opponent owns that. She's frozen. So there's nothing I can do there, right? I can't mess with that. I can slide it over here. And although I also own the yellows are mine. This is green. I can't merge that. I can't combine two unlike colors. So that one is basically off limits at this point, right? I could slide it this way. Can't slide it this way because, again, it's frozen, protected. But I could also break off this. I can break off a double, right? And the same thing goes. I can go this way, go here, there, this way, right? And then I can go ahead and break off one, right? Put it anywhere I'd like to put it. Here, here, here. Obviously can't mix it there again, right? I could take them out with this munchie there. So those are the options, right? But what I can't do, this can't be done, right? Some people might think, oh, I get to explode, right? And they want to try to, explode in all kinds of different directions or whatever the case may be, right? But no, that's not the case. It can only be exploded to one direction. So either you grab the whole piece, move it around, right? One way in any direction that's available, or you break it off this way, or you break it off this way, right? So it just depends on how you like to do it, whether you want to go with the double, right? The double frozen, go out there and, have a munchie right there, or, you can go and spread your munchie out, right? If this is how the game was going, obviously the best thing for you to do would be to grab this, break it off, put it in the gutter. So not only are you putting your opponent in the gutter, but you're establishing a quad right there, right? So that'd be the best thing to do, because you could also establish a quad going this way, right? If you break off a munchie, there's your connection right there. That's a quad. But if you're able to take your opponent out, that's always a good thing, right? Okay, guys, so here in this clip, I'm going to be explaining what pulling a straight set means, right? When pulling a straight set from the bag, right, meaning it's your turn, you grab your bag, and you pull your 6 tiles from that bag, and you just so happen to pull out tiles that are in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives you, as a player, an automatic quad on your next turn, right? So the player may choose any 4 cubes from the game board or on deck. So you can get any cubes from the game board and make a quad. Whether they're in the gutter or on the board, it doesn't matter. Or you can get a whole set from here, doesn't matter what order, and put it on, make your quad anywhere you like to, right? So it just depends on what works better for you. But once you pull that straight, right? So you get your bag, you pull your sticks out, you're messing, you shift them around trying to see what you got, and you just so happen to notice that you got a perfect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a straight. So what I like to do is I like to put them out over here in dramatic fashion, right? So that my opponent knows I'm about to establish an automatic quad, right? When that happens, I can grab my yellows, right? Grab these from the gutter. This one was already on the board. And this one right here, and take my opponent's munchie out. Put it right there, right? I could get my greens, right? Where are my greens at? I got 2 on the board, 2 in the gutter. I could grab them here. I could put them right here, send my opponent's munchie to the gutter, right? I can't mess with my opponent's frozen still. But I could establish my quad, my automatic quad on their munchies, right? And send them to the gutter, right? Or what I could do is I could grab these right here in the middle. Could grab these here, make a quad, put my opponent in the gutter, and then that leaves me with having to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yellow straight, right? If I happen to pull that set of 4 that was right here in between them, I could do that if I wanted to with a straight. And I think that's pretty much about it. If I want to grab this over here in the back, I could do that too. Put my opponent in the gutter, right? You don't have to put your opponent in the gutter, but if you want to, I mean, I would want to do that. You can put it here. You can put it here, here. You can make an automatic quad anywhere you like to on the board that's available. So that's the beauty of pulling a straight. If you so happen to be, far behind, and you happen to pull a straight, it's a beautiful thing. You get to establish a quad anywhere and get yourself back in the game. So that's the explanation for whenever you pull a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is a straight set. Okay, Quads family, so now that you guys know what the game consists of, this is how the game is set up. So each player will have 4 sets of quads on a deck in an alternating pattern. For example, I have blue, red, blue, red. My opponent has green, yellow, green, yellow. So now, to begin the game, I'm going to grab a die, my opponent will grab her die, and we're going to go ahead and roll. Whoever rolls a higher number, which was me in this case, will go first. And by go first, that means they'll draw their 6 tiles first and begin to play their tricks first. And then my opponent will proceed to grab her tiles, her 6 tiles. So what you're looking at right here is my set. A set is made up of 6 tiles. Now whenever it comes to a trick is whatever 2 I decide to choose out of these 6. For example, let's go 5, 5. So with that being pulled there, I'm going to grab my first cube, which is blue, place it at the 5, 5. And just know that you do have to go in order. So I have to get rid of my blues first before I start getting into my reds, and she has to do the same. Also, for your information, I just pulled a double, which means that I get to go again. And there's various doubles here on the board. You'll see a 2-2, a 3-3, a 4-4, a 6-6, and for example, the 5-5 that I just pulled. If you pull any of these doubles, that gives you an extra chance to play another trick. Right? And notice I didn't mention a 1-1. I just happen to have a 1-1 here. A 1-1 is considered a wild. We'll get into that more in depth a little later, but just know that's also considered a double. So after I play my 1-1, I will be able to go again. And just for the purposes of the game, a 1-1 will allow me to place my next cube anywhere on the board that I choose to. Right? So I'm gonna go ahead and place it at the 3-5. Like I said, I get to go again. I'll play my 2-3. I'll place my 2-3. I'll grab another 6 while my opponent goes and plays her tricks. Okay, so she's done. She played a set. Notice, she just so happened to get 2 doubles. She played a 3-3, which allowed her to go again. She played a 6-6, allowed her to go again. Then she finished with a 2-6. So she completed her set. She grabbed her next 6. Now it's my turn. And mind you that since we're just beginning the game, it's important to know that a quad must be established before I'm able to, let's say she has a 2-6 here. I have a 2-6. If I played a 2-6 right now at this point of the game, because there's no quad established, I would lose my turn and it'd be her turn. Because at this point, I am unable to put her out, put her in the gutter. I can't do that yet because there's no quad established. So I'm going to try to avoid that trick right there. I have a pretty good little thing going on right there. I almost got a quad. A quad is 4 of these little guys, which is also known as, munchies. A single cube is a munchie. If I'm able to put another one of my blues anywhere around here, I can make my quad. So then I would go ahead and play a 2-2, right? Which gives me a quad, right? And a quad will always be placed at the last trick that you played that made that quad. And notice that it's a double as well, so then I still get to go again. And now that there is a quad established, now if I wanted to play a 2-6 or a 6-6 or a 3-3, I could. And let's say, for example, I had a 2-6. Then I would get my next, which is a red, put it here, put it in the gutter. Unfortunately, I don't have that, right? So I'm just going to go with what I have. I'm going to go 4-4. There's my 4-4, which is a double. I get to go again. And I'm left with a 1-6. I have no choice but to play that. So there goes my red. Now it's her turn. She'll go as I pick my next 6. So she went ahead and picked 3-3, which is a double. And she was lucky enough to have a green next. So that means she added a green to the single green that she had there already. And she froze this. What that means is that I can no longer, even if I had a 3-3, which I do, I can't just go here. I can't break that up. That's frozen. So if I did, want to play this 3-3, I would play it, and that would only cause for her to move. And she would have to move one way either direction, right? So that doesn't really do me no good at this point in the game, so I'm going to try to avoid that move. Looking at my numbers here, I do have a 4-4, right? Which is appealing because it's a double. It'll allow me to go again. And I have a 4-4 already, right? So I'd be freezing a set of my own. And it would also allow me to go again. So I'd go, just to get the chance to go again, even though she is on the 3-3. If I played the 3-3, like I said, she would have to move one square in any direction that's available, right? She'd be unable to move here, but she can move anywhere here. And it would still give me the opportunity to go again after that. So I placed a 3-3, now she has to move it. She chose to go to the 3-4. So I get to go again, and all I'm left with is my 5-6. So I'll play a 5-6, get my last red, and place it right there. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab my last 6. She's going to go ahead and play her last trick. Okay. So here I go. I am the player who is in charge of the blues and the reds, and looking at my sets, I'm switching around, seeing what I can play, what benefits me, and looks like I have a 1-1, which, like I mentioned before, is called a wild, which would allow me to place my next color anywhere on the board, but it would also give me the opportunity to move anything that belongs to me one way in any direction, right? Now that there's a quad established, I'm able to even put her in the gutter if I wanted to, right? If I wanted to play that 5-6, but I don't, because what a 1-1 does is it would allow me to split my own frozen, right? If I wanted to split that, I would split it, and then there's my quad, right? And it would go right there at the 2-5, because that's the last number that allowed me to make that quad. But let's say we go back, right? The 1-1 would allow me to move this way if I wanted to. It would allow me to move here if I wanted to, but I wanted a quad, so that's what I played. So there's my second quad, and then a 1-1 is considered a double, allows me to go again. I'm gonna play a 2-2, which is a double. Just so happens that I have a quad there already. With that being said, there I have the option to go this way. I can't go here because she's frozen. She owns that there. I can go here, here, or here. And I'm just gonna, go here. And that's a 2-2, right? That's a double. Allows me to go again. Just so happens that I have a 1-3, which is where I decided to move it. And I moved it this way to have the opportunity to take her out, right? And notice that I have 4 sets here, right? So 4 sets is as far as a player can go. So I reach my 4 sets first. I should have said last trick before placing this to let my opponent know that she only has 1 move left. She can only play 1 trick, regardless of how many of her sets she has left. She can only play once, and after that, we're putting all our sets all together, putting them back there, and we're starting over. And that would be the end of round 1. She chose to go 1-5 and freeze her 1-5. So that's the end of round 1. I called last trick, so we're gonna collect our tiles, put them in the bag, and we're basically starting all over again, right? So that's how you